everyone, I'm Heather. It's been ages since I did this. I only did it one other time, like years ago. But I finally hit 1,000 subscribers. And I think it's enough of a buffer now as well to where I can say it out loud and I won't just immediately tempt the universe to drop it down below that. So, shall we do a Q&A? Okay, I have a collection of questions. I asked for questions in, I think, my last video or the one before that. So I had a couple through in the comments for that. And then also I asked for more questions on Instagram. And I've had quite a lot through, but not a load. And I think like a lot of people sort of like liked my request or said, yes, I love a Q&A idea, but didn't ask a question. And I think basically it's because I feel like I have no secrets and like no topic is off limits and I talk a lot. So I think no one has any curiosities about me anymore. Like there are no more questions left, but we do have a couple, so we'll give these a go. Thank God I ramble, you know, I'm more than able to fill the space with just a couple questions. Okay, I feel like I just need to say, first of all, because I'm super excited, that Beyonce is here in Cardiff. Like, we're gonna go to the show tonight, and I saw these like huge trucks like pulling around to the stadium to like set up all her like huge horse staging and everything. And like on Instagram, she's like put her location as Cardiff. Like my friends and I, like we couldn't find t-shirts we liked, so we made our own t-shirts, and I'm like, I like put it on today. And like I put on my like massive like party girl hoops, you know, like the bigger the hoop, the bigger the dreams. I've been just like listening to Beyonce this whole time, like the set list soundtrack basically. Do my hair, do my makeup, like doing a bit of work, you know. I am amped. This video is way too energized for you and it's in like a whole other zone than what a Q&A should be. I apologize for that. I'm basically about to jump out my window with all the excitement that is pent up in my body. Okay, let's get to it. First one. Would you ever do a haunted house tour in real life? Book, yeah, I would. Are you kidding me? That sounds like right up my street. So when I was a kid, not a kid, maybe 15, I went to the UK for the very first time. Me and my friends in school or whatever, we did a school tour. We went to Edinburgh. And there's this cemetery in Edinburgh, you probably know, maybe you don't. It's like Greyfriars or something like this, and it's haunted as fuck. Okay, and like with this tour that we did, we went around to like all the most haunted-y sort of bits, and we like went in this tomb. They unlocked it for us, and we went in and we stood in, you know, and potentially, like who knows? Okay, I don't know. I'm not gonna be a person who says I know. Potentially, ghosts aren't real, and it's all silliness. And it's all in our mind. And that was fun as F, simply because we were in Edinburgh and we were young and we were excited. And the tour guide was like getting in our minds, you know. But also, maybe ghosts are real. Maybe it is haunted as F and we were just in there with it. Just in there with all the ghosts just standing there. They could have killed us. They could have made us crazy. Oof. It's just like the vibe. The vibe of those sorts of places. Potentially the vibe we create for ourselves, whatever, I don't know. But I love it. And I would 100% do it again. Like, they have that one, like, the Shining Hotel. Do you know what I mean? Is that a thing? Do people go to that? Because that is in Colorado, where I used to live. And I could see myself sort of, like, going back there, you know, maybe to, like, see people or whatever, and then also go there. Is that a thing? Does anyone know about that? Because that one would be cool. Okay, number 2. Oh, shit. Now my dog went out. Hold on. Okay, where are we? Oh god, I'm out of breath. I'm so unfit. Okay, number 2 is, what was the most embarrassing situation you've ever been in? And I was thinking about this one, right? Like, a long think. And I couldn't really think of anything. But it doesn't mean I'm not plagued by embarrassment. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm very socially awkward. So I was thinking, and I think in the wee hours of the night, when I'm alone and staring at the ceiling, you know, thinking about my life, I'm plagued by little embarrassments. Do you know what I mean? Like those sort of like little social embarrassments that shouldn't be such a big deal, but all together in one sort of like, you know, package that assaults you late at night, I think they become a bigger thing. So I think, you know, I'm pretty social. I like to be social. I like to go out, I like to hang out with people, I like to meet new people, I like to have fun. And I feel like I'm a pretty, you know, good judge of people and, you know, pretty empathetic. Like, I'm constantly sort of translating humanity for my husband. He'll sort of look at a situation and he's like, I have no idea what is happening. Why are they doing that? And I'll be like, I'll tell you what's happening. The grandma, she's tired, her legs hurt, and she loves a granddaughter, but her granddaughter's being a little bit crazy for her. Like, I just basically, I think I read a room, okay, quite well. But when I get into like a sort of social situation where I'm not fully comfortable, I don't like have my full footing, okay, like maybe something's new or whatever, I suddenly, I think, go into overdrive and I panic a little bit and I lose the ability to like do any of that, like read any kind of room, read any kind of anything, or like when I'm excited, like when somebody mentions something and I'm like, yes, and I sort of go a bit crazy, and like all of the social cue readers just sort of malfunction and shut down, and that's really the danger zone. That's like prime conditions for me to be incredibly embarrassing for myself and shame my whole family and then be haunted later by stuff I've said. Like quite often someone will be really excited about something and they'll say, oh, and then I did this, and because I don't want them to feel sad that I have no idea what that is, you know, I don't want to like let them down and like, you know, kill their excitement by being like, the fuck is that? I don't know anything about that. Why would I do that? You know? So I just sort of like, I don't know, like something takes over my body and I go, oh, I love that. And now, like, they're like, oh, you do? Oh, it's so hard to find people that love that. Obviously, because it's shit. But then I have to, like, either, you know, make a choice. Like, back up and be like, I don't know why I said that. I don't love it. I'm really sorry. Or I have to just commit. And most of the time, in my panic state, I just commit. I'm like, yeah. I went to see them live in Seattle last summer. It was really great. And they'd be like, I didn't know they played Seattle. Like, yeah, they do it every year. Like, why? And I'll just keep going. I just keep going, like, long after it's become feasible. Like, so many opportunities to just stop and move on. I'm still going. I don't know why. Like, so many bad, like, poorly backed up stories. And also, accents, okay? Like, when someone's talking to me in an accent and I'm, like, you know, a bit in this like danger zone, I just do their accent. I don't know why. Like there was this one time in Ireland, in Dublin, I was with my parents and this guy had a really strong, obviously like Irish accent, and I was asking him about like tours and stuff, and he was giving me the information about tours back to me in his Irish accent, and then I was asking more questions in his accent, and like the more I thought about it and tried to stop doing it, like the worse it got. It became just like crazy, like, you know, caricature of leprechauns and stuff. It was awful. And it's not something that should be so embarrassing, but you know, obviously paired with like all these other things. I don't know, this is a very long story about how I don't really have one particularly embarrassing story. Okay, I'm gonna drop something in here just like this, like, I'm coming to you from the future. Beyonce was last night. It was amazing. Yes, thank you. But what happened is I was really amped. I was so excited. I was like hanging out with everyone, blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to stay awake and in the moment. You know, I wanted to be my full self. So I had all these caffeine-y type drinks like espresso martinis and like, you know, vodka Red Bulls and stuff like this. So even though I didn't get home that late, it was like maybe like midnight or something, I was like so like amped and excited, high on life and caffeine, obviously, which is worse. And I couldn't get to sleep. So I laid awake in bed for ages, just sort of staring at the ceiling. And I was visited by the ghost of an embarrassment, okay, as I knew that I would be in all of these sort of situations. And I'm going to tell you now, because I should have thought of it yesterday, but I didn't. My mind had repressed it for my own sanity, but last night in my overly caffeinated like late night state, it came back to me for a special haunting. I'm gonna tell you what it is now.
What a lovely story, Linda. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Let's go to Heather in Cardiff, originally from Seattle. Good morning, Heather.
Hiya.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm okay. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. Tell me your story.
I used to feel really homesick.
Yeah, it's work. I'm thinking of Seattle. I'm thinking some great bands came from Seattle, didn't they, back in the day?
Oh, yeah, banging bands. They also, like, a lot of them died there, so, you know.
All right, okay. Let's cheer up the mood of the nation. We won't go there.
Why? BBC Wales Radio, they like have my number on file. They like found me on Facebook, right? And like they've called me twice now, when they didn't have enough callers. Like it's a call-in show, and I don't think people like do that anymore. I don't know, people are over that I think now, so they sometimes can't get enough callers. So they've called me twice. They found me on Facebook originally, I think, and they've been like, can you say something in the call-in show? Like, we'll phone you when it's time, and then you talk. And both times, oh my god, What is wrong with me? I'm so embarrassing. I'm not doing it again. If they call me again, I don't care what it is. I'm just gonna be honest with them. I'm just gonna be like, guys, I am an embarrassment to myself and to my family. And like, just please don't make me shame myself again. I can't do it. Okay, number 3. Okay, what is your ideal reading situation? Location, snacks, drinks? So I was thinking about this one as well, and I think the answer is, unfortunately, probably just everywhere. Every situation is my ideal reading situation. I can read anywhere and be happy that I'm reading. But I was thinking about it, and I think it's probably at times when I have a sort of short but devoted, uninterrupted, like, bit of time for reading where I don't have to worry about like, oh, is someone going to come in and interrupt me and ask me for something or bug me, or like, you know, am I going to need to go somewhere soon? You know, do I need to be doing something right now that's other than reading? Should I be doing something else? You know, like that sort of thing. It's sort of maybe like when my kid's in tennis, you know, and I go to the bar that's part of like the tennis center and have just like a beer and have that full hour where there's nothing else to do. I have to be there for that hour because she's doing tennis and I got to pick her up in a minute, you know. And I'm just sort of sitting there, reading time. And that's devoted reading time with a start time and an end time of like uninterrupted sort of reading bits, you know. It's like puts me in the perfect space for just like devoting my full self into my book, you know, and I can just like relax all the way, like, ooh, I have until my alarm goes off, you know, in an hour that I can just do this. Or like, again, say she's at cheerleading and I'm say like waiting in the car in the parking lot, like you know, a car's not particularly comfortable, but in that zone, in that mind space of like, okay, my alarm goes off in an hour, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna get her. I can't do anything else. I can't clean in this time where I'm stuck in the car. I have to read, and I'm excited to do it. Like, also, I think my ideal condition is like less a physical location and more like a mental location. Was that deep? I feel like that was deep. Thank you. But you know what I mean? Like a mood, you know, like a reading mood. Like there's loads of sort of situations where I have the physical elements of my perfect reading life, you know, like the perfect chair or whatever. And I'm just not in the damn mood to read a book. I want to scroll through my Instagram and look at horrible things, you know, or, you know, like I'll just be in the mood where I just want to have like a bit of a nap, like I'm feeling down or whatever. And then there'll be other times where it's not physically the perfect, you know, ideal situation for reading. Like maybe I'm in the queue for the bathroom or whatever, but I'm down for a read, you know, like my mood, like I'm fully alive in my mind and I'm super excited, like I'm bursting with the creativity needed to fully immerse in a book, you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing. I realize now a lot of my answers aren't very like concrete answers, and I apologize for that. I'll do better. Hold on. Okay, next one is oh, I want the full Hank story, please. So Hank, he's our dog. He's our elder greyhound. We have 2 greyhounds. The boy Hank, he is 12. I think Maisie's 10. She's just a little bit younger, but she's more sprite. And I'm not sure what we mean by the full Hank story, but I love to talk about Hank, so I'm going to give you like the full story. He was born in Ireland. It was a rainy and cold New Year's Eve. Just kidding. I don't know. Like, he was born on the 1st of January, but sometimes they just put that in, don't they? Like, that's to sort of, I don't know, because they don't know. Anyway, so he was born in Ireland to this, like, breeder for greyhound racing, and I think Maisie also was born there. And there's this greyhound rescue place near us where they have contacts with places in Ireland to where when breeders and sort of like people who own the dogs that race don't want them anymore, the sort of rescue place by us is sort of like hoping to establish these sort of connections with those people so that they don't just sort of discard the dogs, which is awful, you know, like when they're not profitable anymore, it's like sometimes they just kill them, or like, you know, just throw them out on the highway or whatever and like make them get on with their way or whatever. Like, whereas the greyhound place that we know, they try to sort of say, please don't do that, just give them to us. And so they sort of like get a lot of their dogs from these sort of things. Like, anyway, when we first got him from the greyhound rescue, I think he was 2 years old or 3 years old. Like, he didn't have a very successful racing career. He's a bit crap. He doesn't like to do stuff he doesn't want to do. I can imagine like they were like, okay, now go, and he was like, no. So we didn't last long in his career, and I'm glad that they just gave them to the ground rescue instead of just like throwing him out on the highway. But we've had him now for like 10 years, over 10 years, I think. And in that time, he went from like this like really like spry, sort of like wacky dog. Like the first day we met him, we came to sort of pick him up. We went on like a walk, you know, like to sort of like talk to the people and sort of, you know, hang out with him. He found a dead rat and like rolled in it. He was like, yes. He was just a bit wild. And now, yeah, he's an old man. He's a grandpa. He, like, his back legs are sort of going, you know? And so he always like walks with like his back legs sort of in a bit, and like they're a bit wobbly, and he's not sure, and he spends a lot of time sort of sleeping and laying down and stuff. And he sort of gave up food for a while. He was on like a hunger strike. And it was really hard for us because I think both James and I like were thinking, you know, without saying, but like looking at each other, like, is it cruel to sort of like have him starve himself to death, you know? Like, is he at a point where like we have to like actively do something about, you know, the end of his life and stuff? And it was like really hard. But sort of like we tried a couple sort of like Hail Mary passes with different kinds of food and stuff like that. And now I think we've got it. It's like a long drawn out ridiculous process, but it's like this kind of food and then this kind of food and this kind of food mixed in the microwave, and then this kind of medication and this kind of medication, and then we bloop it all up, and then we get a bit of like Parmesan cheese and we doop it on the top, and then we hand it to him, and then he sniffs it, and then we wait, and then he looks away, and then he goes to repeat, and then we just wait like this while he's out having a pee. We just like wait in the kitchen like this with it in our hands, ready to go. And then he comes in and he eats a bit on top, and then he stops, and we're like, and then we just put like Parmesan cheese on, and then do it again, like bloop, 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 bloop. And then sometimes he'll need a bit of a minute. Maybe he'll think about it. But like sometimes, you know, he'll go for it. He'll eat it like maybe like a half of it, like the top layer, you know, and then he'll go sit down. And then we sort of wait a couple minutes, and then we put more Parmesan cheese on it, and then we come in again, you know, like on his bed, and he'll sniff at it, you know, and he'll maybe eat a bit more. Like, basically this is our lives now, twice a day, just like making the dog, like doing very specific things to make the dog eat food. And I think he's like perking up a bit, you know, like he's still an old man, he still doesn't have that long left, but like he was getting really skinny, like scary skinny, and now he's like sort of like, I don't know, filling out a bit more, like his spine is no longer really scary, like out like that. And he's sort of perking up a bit more as well. Like when I walk in the door for a bit there, he'd stopped coming up to see me. He just didn't have the energy or like the will or whatever to even come see me. But now he sort of gets up, like as long as I haven't been gone for like 2 seconds, like he recognizes if I've just gone to the post office, you know, he's like, you were just here. But you know, if I've gone to work and come back, like he'll get up and he'll sort of come see me, and he's got like a bit of a wag now. So it's not the end, but every time he gets up on the sofa, he can't get off. Like sometimes he's got to be helped off, or like he just like has to wait until he really needs to poo bad before he'll like push himself off the sofa. Anyway, that's the Hank story. Okay, next one. I don't know what number we're on. It's probably not important. Okay, but have you ever thought about writing your own book? If so, what genre? Tell me as much as you can about the plot tell me as much as you can without giving away the plot. Okay, so, I wish that I could just answer some of these questions like really full on and like give like a really concrete answer. I feel like every sort of question I just like start from a weird place and then end in a weird place and never answer it, and I feel like this is gonna be another one. But I have a gazillion brilliant novel ideas all the time, man. All the time. And it's always in a very inconvenient place or situation. So I think mainly my best inspirations for these sort of things come when I've been drinking, right? And I'm out and like I'm talking and it's like late and we've been out a while, maybe dancing, you know, like the music's really loud. And I'll sort of get away from that for a bit. Like maybe I'm like in the, you know, queue for the bathroom, or like I'm leaving for the night, you know, and I'm about to walk home. And sort of like that silence and the sort of just sudden nothingness sort of like hits you, you know, it was all crazy and loud and like bang, 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 blah, 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 you know, then all of a sudden just quiet and calm, you know, and you can still like your ears are sort of ringing a bit, and like you can maybe hear like the pulsing of a beat sort of like in the background, you know, just like a sort of like calm thumping, you know, and that like I'm a bit drunk, I'm a bit like, you know, hit by the silence. That's when my mind goes to like another realm of creativity. Like, my brain just creates the coolest things in that space of time. But because I'm drunk, you know, because I'm tired, because it's the middle of the night or the morning, you know, like, I can never hold on to them very well. And my phone notes, I always think, I need to make a note of this. I do it out in like notes on my phone, frantically like trying to get as much detail and as much formulation of the idea as I possibly can on my phone notes. Whenever I look at it afterwards, like the next day or like when I'm sober or whatever, it never conveys the idea. It is never enough to sort of put me back in that place to get that idea properly. And like, there was like this one novel idea I had about this ancestor I have, or like this story that my family always tells about this guy named Lester. So like my mom and her sisters and her brother, their like maiden name, not the brother, but like, you know, their last name originally is Lester, because apparently we had this ancestor who, his name was Lester, and that was his only name. He just had a first name, but he wanted to be in the Navy, and to be in the Navy you had to have a first name and a last name, so he made his name Lester. And I've always my whole life loved that story and wished that there was more to it, that there wasn't just that tiny skeleton bit. So me, like, you know, in the bathroom queue or whatever, drunk on a night, sort of like formulated this brilliant story about Lester, and then like a descendant of Lester, you know, and like two conjoining stories, like this guy and his story, and then also a descendant of his, and to do with like a van, you know, like him being like a nomad and sort of like wandering about and not having any abode, and then like the ancestor also sort of like being a person who lives in a van. And it was sort of like part funny, you know, but like more sort of about belonging. Do you know what I mean? And I had this like brilliant idea, and I had it all set out, and I put it on my phone notes. But then when I looked at the phone notes later on, it wasn't enough. It wasn't like enough to capture it completely. It was just basically like, yeah, like a skeleton of the idea. All of the brilliance of it had gone, and I couldn't capture it. There was another one as well that was to do with sort of language and culture, and like a clash of cultures. So it would have been about like, okay, an American living in Wales, which is like clearly like quite meta, you know, write what you know. But it was going to be like less about just the experience and like the story of the person being American and living in Wales, and more to do with what is created by two cultures coming together, and like how everyone is affected when cultures come together, and like how they're grounded in their own cultures, how they don't even realize that they're so grounded in their cultures, how like their cultures affect other cultures. Like, it was very wild, and like in my mind it was so gorgeous as an idea, and I put it down in my phone notes again, and then just lost it again. And when I try to get into those places again that I was in when I had the idea, to try to sort of write it down, to sort of do a bit more, I can never engage that place again. It's gone. It's lost forever. I think what I need to do is start, instead of like doing phone notes, like start doing like a voice message to myself, or a voice message to James maybe, if I can't do it to myself, and then he'll like get it like 3 a.m, just like, okay, I have a book idea, just listen, just like it would be bad for him, but I should definitely do voice messages, I think, for these, because I keep losing them. Anyway. Okay, next one is, what would your roller derby name be? And I've thought about this before, and I think I came up with something like, I don't know, like Bitchin' Bertha or something like that. Like, I think it was quite 50s inspired and had the word bitchin' in it. And I think it was a B something, like Bitchin' Bertha or something like that. And I feel like then, me doing the roller derby, like I could have like sort of 50s elements of my costume as I was going. Like, obviously it would be like the team shirt and everything, but I could have like, you know, like 50s hair and everything like under, like hanging out over my helmet or whatever. Like, I don't know, I quite like that sort of idea. Like, do any of you already have a roller derby name? Like, what is it? Can I know it? Because I love them. Like, or like, what in your mind would be your roller derby name? Like, I feel like we should have more of a talk about this. Like, if you don't know what roller derby is, you should definitely Google it, because it's cool as fuck. It's so cool. But yeah, like, what are yours? You know, hit me up with some if you can. Okay, next one is favorite for Eurovision 2023. So this question came in, I think, before Eurovision, but I was so immersed in Eurovision that I didn't actually do this Q&A last week like I should have. So it's a bit late. Eurovision has already happened, but we can still discuss, lightly discuss. So Sweden won, and I fucking knew she would do, okay? I love her. The person who did it is Loreen, she won. And she also won the very first Eurovision I ever watched, like 2012 or something like that. And I love her songs, they're bops, okay? But I'm annoyed. Like, it's still like some Johnny Logan bullshit going on. Like, give someone else a chance. Like, why are you being so greedy, like trying to win Eurovision twice? Like, have you stagnated so much in your career that you're just like grasping onto highs? Like, come on, Loreen. I thought you were better than this, you know? So I'm a bit annoyed at that. But the songs that I loved most of all, as in every Eurovision, never even make it close to the top. Like, I loved this one by Lithuania's singer. It's like really just lovely and like, you know, I don't know, like echoey. You can sort of imagine it like being sung in like a cathedral or something like that. Like, it was banging. Someone like me, also, another one I liked was like quite empowering. Was Czech Republic, and I think the name of the song was like My Sister's Crown or something, and it's just very like, you know, chanty, and I loved it. Also another one that actually did get quite like high up in like the top 5 or whatever was Finland, and it was like a death metal version of the cha cha cha, you know, like cha cha cha, like that, but it was like cha cha cha. Like, and I hated it. First of all, I absolutely hated it. I was like, why? There's no possible way this can be good. But then after I heard it a million times, like on playlists and stuff for Eurovision, after you hear it a while, suddenly like it like grows on you, and now I play it just for fun because I love it. And I'm sad it didn't win. Anyway, UK did not get the very bottom slot. It got second to bottom. Germany got bottom. So, you know, for me, I feel that's a win. Oh, fuck hell. Okay, the next one is, if you could poop any color, what color would your poop be? And I think, you know, I was giving this a good think. You know, first of all, comes to your mind is like, oh, if I could poop rainbow colors, you know, or like sparkles or whatever, you know, make my poop just really cool, like unicorn poop. But I think actually that's not true. In the end, you know, the poop color I want most is the healthiest poop color. So I mean, like, your digestion and everything is working so well and exactly how it's meant to work that has created the most healthy poop, you know, healthiest poop color, healthiest poop consistency. And I feel like in my life I'm constantly chasing this like healthiest poop. My friend who lives in Scotland, his digestion is just a work of beauty. It's just the most beautiful thing. He poops at like the same time every day. You know, he'd be like, oh, it's 9:02, it's time to poop, you know, and then he only spends a bit of time in there. It's clearly just gets it out and he's done then, you know, and it doesn't even smell that bad. It's just a very healthy poop because his digestion is just working in the exact way it's meant to work. Do you know what I mean? And I think if I could have any kind of poop, any kind of color, I would want that kind of poop. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like in my 30s now as well, it's become like a huge situation. Like, please make it a healthy poop. Okay, second to last question, penultimate one. Ready? Husband, child, dog, job, whales, YouTube, friends, books, scenes. How do you find time for all these things? Can you give me some easy and lazy tips on being more productive? So, I think with this one, I don't think I'm more productive than the average person. I think I might just be like differently productive. Like, as in, I always prioritize like stupid projects, like my own personal like pointless projects, art and such, over really important things. So, you know, like if you were to think about all of the time you spend on life admin, you know, things like cleaning your house, cooking for your children. Like, do we need to do that stuff? You know, for real, come on. Like, if we were to just say never tidy anything away, ever, you know, like vacuum occasionally, do a bit of dusting, you know, maybe, you know, we'd have loads more time. Also cooking, you know, do we need to cook? Or should we spend, you know, approximately, and this is, you know, just a ballpark figure, it's not like the actual figure I've pulled from my budgeting app or anything, but could we potentially, theoretically, use 80% of the part of our income which is disposable on eating and drinking out instead? You know, it's not like a solid number or anything, it's just something I've made up. Also, like maybe like an actual, you know, real tip that I found really helps me in my life and with, like, you know, my well-being, is to lean into my moods. You know, I think a lot of people are like me in that, you know, their moods are quite strong, and then some people aren't, you know, and that's completely fine. But I think for people who are like me, like, I'll get sort of moods where it's just a huge burst of energy and creativity and just everything is alive with wonder and I just want to get stuck into everything. And then other moods are just like low energy moods or like low enthusiasm moods, or, you know, I don't want to do anything. And I think I used to fight my moods, you know, be like, oh, I'm in a burst of energy mood now, but it's nighttime and I have to sleep now. Or like, oh, I'm in a low mood, but I need to get this done. Like, I think now that I've figured out sort of how they roll and the importance of like rolling with them whenever I can do, I think I've opened up whole worlds. So leaning into the mood as it is, like if it's a lower mood or a low energy mood or whatever, just like resting and being cool with that, you know, and like resting all the way and not wasting that rest being worried that I'm not doing anything, you know, just being like, now is a resting mood time. We rest until this mood is not a resting mood anymore, and then we do, you know, and we don't feel bad that we're not doing, and then when the burst of energy mood comes, you know, just like fully like launching into it, like, you know, like canceling other plans, you know, like, okay, no, I have to do this now, and like just like pushing all the way into it. That's really helped me. Like, I'm like really productive in my, you know, like burst moods now, I think, because like I allow myself to rest all the way in the other moods, you know, instead of like feeling guilty in that time and not properly resting. Also, I think like another thing that's really helped with like my well-being and like my ability to sort of do things and fit things in, is I never say no really to things anymore. Like if someone says, hey, do you want to do this, or should we do this, like I sort of basically, unless there's an absolute 100% reason I can't do it, like, you know, a really important schedule clash or whatever, like I say yes and I do it, and then you just sort of find time for that thing, and then I don't know, you just sort of, as soon as you said yes, you've got to do it, and now you have to find time for it, you know, time you would have otherwise been like, I don't know, on your couch flicking through Netflix and never actually like deciding on anything, like, should we watch this one? No. Should we watch this one? No. Should we watch this one? No. Because you've said yes to this other thing, it's now scheduled in and you're doing it. You do it instead, and I think it like overall makes it so that you do actual more things instead of like, I don't know if those are real tips or if I've just like confused everyone. I apologize for that. Okay, last one. It could not come at a better time because I'm literally out of time now. I have to go to Beyonce. I have to meet people in town. But last one is Snog, Marry, Avoid. Which literary characters would you choose to Snog, Marry, Avoid? Okay, you know that show, Snog, Marry, Avoid? Anyway, okay. So I've picked a couple out, and I think generally the Snog is going to be those literary characters which are like reluctant like leaders and like solvers of crimes, but they don't really want to be in that role. They're just sort of like thrust into it, you know, like sort of reluctant sheriffs and sort of like dark, sort of shadowy PIs that have to be PIs because they need the money, you know, like things like that. So I thought of one, Virgil in Winter Counts. He's sort of like a bit of I don't know, I guess a vigilante? Like, it doesn't paint a good picture, that word. But basically, he serves, I guess, the role of a police officer or a detective or whatever in that sort of like space where police would be if they weren't constantly letting down that community. Do you know what I mean? So he's sort of stepped up into that void. They need him to sort of be that. He doesn't want to be that, but he's stepped up. And I like that. I think it's sexy. Also, I thought Longmire from the Longmire books. You know, these books, it's about a Wyoming sheriff, and him as well. Like, he's a bit troubled, you know. He doesn't play like a natural leadership role. He just sort of does it because he has to. He's sort of thrust into it. And I quite like that. I think it's hot. Okay, and then To Mary, I think pretty much any main character in an Andy Weir book. He's got like the 3 sort of space ones, doesn't he? And all 3 of them, 2 men and 1 woman, like, they're very clever and they sort of like think on their feet, but they're sort of funny as well. And you can sort of count on them to be creative in solving problems and to sort of like take things in hand, but also to like have a sense of humor about it. Okay, and then for avoid, like, I read a lot of horror. So I think quite a lot of the characters in the books that I read, like, I would want to avoid them. But sort of trying to capture things in my mind, trying to maybe like nail down someone who would potentially be viable as a person to snog or marry, but for some reason, you know, you'd prefer to avoid them. And I think I'm gonna go with anyone who's particularly cursed, either like metaphorically or just like in their lives, or actually like part of a horror, like cursed. So Happy Doll in the books that he's in, I can't think of them, I'll put them out. But he sort of, for some reason, you know, brings a toxin on his whole life. Like, everyone he meets, they end up like dead or in like some sort of like trouble or whatever. Like, he seems this cool sort of guy, but the sort of surrounding like impact of his life on other people's lives, like, is not good. People don't end up in good places when they associate with him, so I'd probably avoid him. But also like other people, like, you know, that book Hex, where this whole town is cursed by this like 17th century witch or something like that. Like, the guys in that seem okay, like, you know, the dads and stuff like that, they seem like okay people, but you know, they are actually cursed, so I would like not want to be married to them or anything. I would like to avoid them, definitely. Okay, that's it, that's done, that's the end of the questions. I'm glad I didn't push harder for more questions because, dear God, I ramble a lot and I apologize for that. Especially because I've used up all my time. There's no more time left for any more questions. I have to go to Beyonce now. It is time to go to Beyonce now. I'm so excited. Okay, if you've gotten this far, thank you for watching. Thank you. Also, thank you for the 1,000 subscribers. Like, if you've been here a while or you're just brand new, like, thank you so much. I love BookTube. I just love it. I love like the chats and the people I meet and the things I learn and just like the conversations and the love. Holy crap, I love it so much. Thank you as well for the questions. If you put in a question, thank you for that. Like, I desperately needed those questions to do this, and it wouldn't have worked otherwise. If you have any questions for me still, any sort of thoughts, anything, like, you know, comments about this stuff, if you have a roller derby name, if you have like anything to say at all, please let me know down in the comments. I love a bit of a chat, and I will see you next week after Beyonce.